Which brand has lost you as a customer? Thrifty car rental. Got a car with problems I noticed on my drive from the airport. At the same time, my dad was in hospice and they weren't sure how long he would be alive. Thrifty wouldn't do anything to help me, told me to return the car and exchange it. And they would charge me for the pleasure. I tried to explain my situation. Airport was 2 hours away, dad's dying. Can I have AAA tow it back to them or something? No. I ended up renting a second car in my hometown while he was dying and paid for the full 2 weeks renting one car that worked and one from Thrifty. Complained to corporate and their response was basically, maybe you shouldn't have prioritized your dad's dying over a rental car. Fuck Thrifty. Kat Von D Cosmetics lost me when she said she wouldn't vaccinate her kid. Sprint. My first cell phone was Sprint, had them for years. Then they decided to charge me twice a month for one phone. Called to get it fixed, and nothing. I switched to AT&T and we cancelled Sprint, kept same number though. Sprint kept charging me after cancelling and tried to sue me for not paying. Even though I had record of the cancellation. Got them to drop those charges but then sued me for not paying the late fees for those payments I didn't pay after I cancelled. British Airways. I lived abroad, my mum came to visit. 3 days into her trip my dad died and we had to fly to UK immediately. I needed to change the date of her return flight to that day, and buy one new ticket for myself. My stipulations were, we both need to be on the same plane ASAP. They booked my seat first, said there was only business class available, which I agreed to, then after taking payment said there were no seats for my mum so she's on a different flight later in the day. Also my seat was non-refundable as it was less than 24 hours until the flight. £3,000 out of pocket. I immediately called Virgin Atlantic, explained. They said get to the airport ASAP and we'll sort it out. They met us at the check-in desk, took our passports and luggage while we waited at a cafe, then walked us through the airport and security, right to the door of the plane. From phone to plane seat in 3 hours. I just don't know how I was so failed by one, and so welcomed and helped by the other. I'll never set foot on a BA plane. Tim Hortons. Prices keep rising and quality is absolute shit now. DirecTV. Got diagnosed with leukemia, they spent the first month figuring out how to fire me. Second month they insisted they never received any documentation from my physician, even when I was on the phone with a nursing assistant as she faxed the information to them. Walked into the office one day, they gave me a box and walked me out because I hadn't provided the necessary documentation within 30 days. Fuck DirecTV. Expedia. They've screwed me several times now and their customer service, straight up lies and is designed to be so frustrating you give up. Avast. I was happy for the most part. But one day I noticed my browser changed to Avast 1, without me ever installing it, accepting it or even being notified that said browser is being added to the package. When I install I always go for manual options so I can tick off unwanted crap. This just happened with one of the updates. So, no thanks Avast, you can go fuck yourself now. Logan's Roadhouse. Went to one a decade ago and got a buffalo chicken sandwich. It was raw in the middle. I told the server and her response was, yeah, it's usually a safer bet to get the chicken strips. Left right then and won't go back. SiriusXM. I've never been spammed more by a company in my life after canceling my subscription. Seriously, like 30 letters and 10 calls in 6 months even after picking up those calls and telling them to remove me from their lead list. Comcast. Despite their shitty service I was willing to re-up with them if they would keep the initial rate I had been paying the previous 2 years. They declined and when asked if they wanted some of my money or none of my money they boldly told me that none of my money was the best option for them. Normal businesses can't survive with that kind of disrespect and disregard for their customers. They are 100% a monopoly. Grubhub. I placed an order for sushi to be delivered one night a couple of months ago and settled in to wait. Got a call from the restaurant. No driver had showed up, and my food had been waiting to be delivered for like half an hour. Then I find out my food's going to be another hour or hour and a half behind. Grubhub issues me a $10 credit. Whatever. The restaurant calls me back, and the poor woman is trying to figure out if she can drive my order over herself, because she knows this is unacceptable and she feels really bad about all this. The driver finally picks up my food, so I start tracking him on GPS. He starts driving away from me. Knowing that I'd been waiting 2 hours for my food, my fucking sushi, mind you, he decided that other people's deliveries were more important than mine. Then, when he delivered my food, he told me that 6 drivers before him had refused to take my delivery. The final topping on this shit sundae? My sushi was warm, so I immediately contacted customer support. Not once did they apologize, not once did they say that this kind of treatment of a customer was unacceptable. I told them that my sushi was warm when it arrived. They offered me a $10 credit. I'm sorry, but if you deliver me food that has me questioning its safety, shouldn't you be refunding me the cost of the meal plus $5 delivery fee? Especially after I've already found out 6 of your drivers couldn't be asked to take a delivery 4 fucking miles? Well, our drivers are contractors, so they're allowed to refuse deliveries. If you'd like, I can have a manager contact you. Please do. And you don't think it's worth incentivizing your drivers in some way so that this kind of shit doesn't happen? Surprise, surprise, manager never contacted me. I deleted my info, then the app, and I tell people not to bother with Grubhub. They take no responsibility when something goes wrong. Apparently I'm still way more upset over this than I realize. That sushi restaurant has a customer for life, though, for being willing to try to get me my food despite Grubhub's fuckery. Obligatory thanks for the gold. Breyers. When you can't even call it ice cream, because there's not enough actual cream, and it must be called frozen dairy dessert. Allstate. I was at fault in an auto accident. I was distracted thinking about a friend who was near death, and rear-ended someone. No injuries, but my truck did a lot of damage to the other car. The young man who owned it was very nice. I felt awful, especially when it was clear his car was not drivable and possibly roadled. I assured him I was well insured and called my agent to verify he would get a rental until the claim was settled. I told the police and the apostate claims department it was 100% my fault. I felt certain the young man would be taken care of. Wrong. About 6 weeks later he called me. He said he hated to bother me, but Allstate was being very difficult. He only had the rental for a week, but they waited 3 weeks to inspect his car and make him an offer. They said he was partially responsible, so they were only going to give him half the value of his car, which was totaled. He couldn't begin to get a comparable replacement for what he was offered. I spent a week arguing with the claim department with no results. He tried to file with his carrier for underinsured motorist coverage, but my limit of liability is $250,000, so I am not underinsured. My husband and I paid him a fair amount for his car plus $1,000 for all the hassle, and then canceled every line of business we had with apostate. Auto, home, boat, motorcycle, and commercial. Our annual premiums are over $30,000, and State Farm has our business now. But I am still furious at how they treated this kid. If we weren't fortunate enough to have taken care of this out of pocket, this gut would have been royally screwed. Great young man with a wife and baby, working to become a licensed electrician. Just theme type of person you want to shit on, right? The Sci-Fi Channel, once they rebranded to Sci-Fi. For one thing, that's just a stupid name. For another, they haven't put out much in the way of quality science fiction television in years, and the few things they did, like The Expanse, they half-assed. Care.com. I had 4 babysitters through Care.com. The first turned out to be a paranoid schizophrenic that went off her meds and kidnapped her own child from the father to perform an exorcism on the demon. Second stole from my house every time she was there. Third ended up knowing and hanging out with one of my family members who was a very well-known meth, heroin dealer. Fourth would not bring my kid back when she was supposed to. Ended up having to travel miles away to get her. When I tried to cancel my Care.com account, they would repeatedly hang up on me for days. I called constantly trying to cancel my account. Sent emails, sent letters through the mail. Finally they said they canceled it. Then proceeded to continue to charge me for 4 months. I got them to stop by closing my account and reporting them for fraud. Fuck you, Care.com. Edited to add. Here's the news report about the first one. http://www. Crowline.com. Amber Alert cancelled. Thurston County boy found safe. Article _25 bot 2D 40 to 605 D11 E4 B065 EF0 F37 CB4 B4E. HTML. Paddy Power. Held my money hostage for weeks following a big win because apparently my account wasn't correctly verified. This hadn't stopped them taking my money for 6 years until that win. Edit. ITT seems like this is common across a number of betting sites. If this happens to you, then persistence pays off, and you can usually get your money back eventually if you keep hassling them. Adobe. €130 for Lightroom with upgrade to a new version. Every 1 to 2 years. Costing €70 was a very fair deal for hobby photographers. Buy the software and then buy every other upgrade, or not, and use it forever. But no, Adobe had to switch everything to their subscription model, so now you pay €12 per month to keep using the software. The perpetual license version hasn't received feature updates in some time, and recently it got its last camera lens support update. It's now no longer being supported. I'll keep using the software as long as I have a camera lens that is supported and as long as it's not outdated. But once there's a need to update, I will look for something that's not made by Adobe. Wells Fargo. I had the same account since I was 10. It started as my hometown bank, but after many buyouts Wells took over. Kept them for a long time, but after all the shot came out of their predatory practices, I closed all my accounts and will never look back. Well, not really a brand, but a store. Kohl's can suck my left nut. Their business model is atrocious to me. They seem to mark up every product in the store, like 100%, and then throw Kohl's cash and discounts at you to make it seem like you're saving money. But at the end of the day, you're spending just as much as if you just went somewhere else. It seems like that store has everything perpetually 75% off, and they're still making boatloads of money. How do people not connect the dots? I have 3 dogs. If your company airs a commercial with a doorbell sound during the ad, I don't buy from you.